Hey crew, it's Pitt and I'm back with some more Esoterica and ancient lore. Today we are going to be diving into the secret of the golden flower. We will be reading aloud and discussing as we go along the various points of interest that are brought to light by the text. Before we begin, however, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in the terminology, there will be several playlists linked up here and in the box down below, along with the original source material, so that you can get a better understanding of who I am and where I come from. I feel like I have done a fairly decent job of talking about that there, but sometimes it can be a little bit hard to keep up. Towards the beginning of the playlist is where I tend to put these things. This is also going to be a groundwork video, which means that I am going to be laying out several things right here that brought us into this. This is going to be a level of responsibility video because we will be talking about in this series, if not in this particular video, the way that you can overcome the laws of this world. And by overcome, I do not mean change. I mean that you will learn how to live by them through this. It is something that I work on quite a bit here. I have MBTI videos that teach you how to learn a little bit about yourself, but of particular note today is going to be the infinite integrations system, where I am trying to do there what we will be doing here today. The level of responsibility means that you are responsible for the things that you learn here. And instead of doing like I normally do and referring you back over to the 8 laws of creation, we are going to review them very quickly. There is an entire video that will be linked up here that will give a better explanation of all of these. But these are the 8 laws of creation. These are the 8 things that guide what you can and cannot do with or without consequences. The first law is the law of one. It means that everything is one. God is. God is me, God is you, and He is the space between me and you. He is the space between me and you, and He is everything you can see and everything that you cannot see. God is the one. All things are contained within the one. They can neither be created nor destroyed. All things are one. All things are energy stored. The law of momentum means that what goes out is what will come back. There is a pattern to how these things happen, and the law of momentum guides that. But what it tells you is that for every action, there is not an equal and opposite reaction, but an appropriate reaction. That means that it may be a little bit of a stronger reaction than the force that you're using, and it may be a little bit less of a reaction than the force that you are using. That is guided by the next law, which is the law of response. The law of response says that which you put out is what will be returned to you. But there is a factor that goes into it, right? It begins with 3. What goes out is returned by 3, but it scales up and it scales down, according to the law of returns, which is the next law. The law of momentum says that there will be something. The law of response emphasizes that there will be something and tells you by the way of how it will happen. But the law of returns is what is actually returned to you. It is the square cubed law. For every growth up, there is a doubling in size. So, for every step you take, you begin with first a doubling, and then a tripling, and then a quadrupling, and so on, until it reaches the point of null returns, which is the energy that is expended is no longer being absorbed, right? You have failed to learn the lesson, and so you will receive the returns in a negative fashion until you receive the end. The law of attraction states that which you are is what you will attract towards you. The things that you are putting out are the things that will be returned to you. That which you focus your energy on is what will be brought back to you. The law of genders states that there is masculine and feminine in everything. There is no overarching masculine, there is no overarching feminine in the corporeal world. But the elementals are guided by these things. There is a feminine, receptive, grounding power that you have access to, and there is a masculine, penetrative, creative force which you have access to. The way is how you balance these things. The law of rhythm states that all things are harmonic. Everything is a waveform, and the way that you give out is the way that it will be returned. And then finally, the law of purpose. Everything has a purpose. Every single instance, every single meeting, every single conversation, every single action that is ever taken has a meaning. You may not grasp that meaning, but the meaning is there. There is a purpose to everything in your life. Every person that you have ever met is, in some way or another, teaching you something, which is going to bring us to the next part. The way that I found this text. Now, I take my crew very seriously. The people who interact with me, you're my crew. The people who follow the channel, you're my crew too. But the people who interact, who are helping me on this journey of growth, that's the real crew, right? Everybody is welcome, but not everybody is on the path. One of the guys, D, I'm not going to try and do all of the name because it's just D and it's like officer of the deck or something like that, but you know who you are. Recommended this channel to me. It came on the back end of another video. He had recommended the Jones Plantation for me, and if you have not seen that one yet, if you are an anarcho-capitalist, it may piss you off a little bit, but that's okay. I do that over here. I'm here to break narratives. I am here to find the true knowledge and to dispense it freely, and there is a reason for that. And the reason for that is what we are talking about right now. D recommended to me that I check out somebody named Allison McDowell. There will be the link provided down below. And so that's what I did. You know, I like to know things. It's one of my peccadillos. And in the process of knowing things, I have to get the background, right? Well, she has an awful lot of stuff. She has 1.5K videos. That is a lot of information to slog through. But most of it is not her. Most of it is clips that she has taken from other people, and a good deal of it is discussions that other people are having. There's some live streams you can see right here. There are a couple of them. But I went back through all the way to the beginning to see where she came from, and so my comments on her stuff there may have turned her off of me a little bit, but that's okay. I've gotten some good information from Allison. Allison currently seems to be dealing with the collective consciousness. Now, her framing and my framing of this problem are a little bit different, but overall, I believe that we're in the same, we have the same goals, right? We want to disrupt as much as possible the system that is unfolding. Now, there are limits to the way that I can phrase this so that you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to leave this link below. We're going to pull her off of my screen in case she doesn't want to be there because it is what it is. There is a force out there. There are several individual mother-fathers, right? You know the mother-father rule, right? It only takes one person in the organization to be aligned in a certain way for that organization to take the actions that would align them with that. There are several organizations out there acting independently in concert with each other. That means that there is not some grand conspiracy where they meet in some back room and they are plotting nefarious things. Most of the people who are enabling the nefarious things have no idea that that is what they are doing. They believe that they are aligned towards the good. There is a way to monitor your bio emanations. Now, for some people, that's going to be a little bit much, but if you are on this video in particular, hopefully you understand what that means. Hopefully you've gone back into the Infinite Integrations playlist and you understand where I am coming from. I'm a little bit different. I have walked a walk that other people mostly have not. It is not because I am special. It is because I have taken the time to walk the walk. I have, through my own meditative practices, discovered something. Now, here's another one that's going to really get rid of a lot of people, and that is because this is a narrow way video, right? I have been inducted into the Order of Melchizedek. That was a spiritual experience. I was pulled out of my body. The first time I had an encounter, I had a being come to me and tell me, you're going to spread the word of God. And at the point, I was an at least an atheist, but most likely what you would call a practicing pagan. I did the rituals involved with Wicca. After that experience, I had another experience where I was pulled out of my body and I was inducted into the Order of Melchizedek without having a clue what that meant. It was not even really a voluntary process. It was not an, do you want to be this? It was a, you are this. And I did not have a clue what it was, so I had to go and find out what Melchizedek was. I looked up Drunvalo first because it popped up on Google. And I learned some things from him. And then I did the Bible study and we learned about Melchizedek there. I say that because it is important to the next part. I can manipulate the bioelectromagnetic forces of myself. I have access to my chakra, right? All 8 of them. There are 7 internal chakras and 1 external chakra. This is things that we go through in the Infinite Integrations playlist, but we are doing this as a level of responsibility video. It begins in the base, and the next base is red. It moves in a clockwise pattern as you are looking forward. The next up is your sacral. It is your base governs the existence of you. It is the I need these things to survive. The base is the sacral is the next step up, and that will be orange, and it rotates in a counterclockwise motion, and it governs the regenerative processes. Right? You are. This is the sexual energy, but it is also the spring of creative energies. And it is orange and moves in a counterclockwise fashion. The next up is going to be your solar plexus. It is just below your heart. It is your gut. It is the part that takes your food and moves it over into energy, right? That is part of the spirit. Next up, it rotates clockwise and it is yellow. The next up is the heart. It is green. It rotates counterclockwise, and it is the part that governs what you really want to do. Right. It is the utmost desires of both the lower and the upper, and it joins those two together. There are 3 below it, 3 above it, and it ties into the one around you. Next up is the throat. It is blue. It rotates in a clockwise manner, and it governs the amplification of your desires. It is the part that speaks into existence the things which you wish to be. Next is the third eye. This is one that a lot of people get wrong, especially people who will be watching this particular video. It is not right here in your forehead, right? But if you take your finger and you put it where you think that it is, and then you come back here to where your skull comes down into a V, and you draw a line between those 2 points, and then you take just above your ears, right behind the temples, and you make a line between these two, that intersection of this line and that line is your pineal gland. That is where the third eye is. You have access to it. There is no amount of fluoride that can keep you from accessing it, but it is something that you have to intentionally do. It is also the part where you see forward. It is where you cast your desires into existence, right? You are envisioning your future. You speak it aloud, you tie it into the heart, and you feed it into the divine. But this is where your decisions come from. It is the soul. It is where the soul resides commonly. Next up is the crown. It is at the top of your head, right? We didn't talk about size. We'll deal with that another time. Go back and watch it. But the third eye is indigo, and the crown is violet. The third eye rotates counterclockwise. The crown rotates clockwise. And it is where you receive energy from the divine. It is where you receive what the wishes of the all is. And you interpret that through your third eye, and you incorporate it into you through these various methods. The final one is the divine. It begins, if you stick your arm all the way out like this, at the palm of your hand turned up. Not like this at the end of your fingers, but here at the end of your palm. And it extends outward from there. The color on this one is going to be a perfect blend of black and white. Not gray, but rather a gray field. From a distance, right? It is black and white to you, to me, if it is balanced. If you have balanced these 7, you have access to the 8. The 8 is where the actual creation of things happens. That is where manifestation lives. you can use these chakras to affect change in your life. And I say that because I have, right? I said all of that to say this. I have used these forces. I have found these methods and I use them. I have affected change in my life. I used to have a cyst in my throat. Anybody that's been around for a while, you know that, but now I do not. And I do not because God has allowed me to remove that from myself using these methods. And now my mission is to give that away. Why? Why would you just give that away? I could do groups and clubs and I could form something because I have actually done these things that people are talking about, but I want to give this away freely. I want to be able to freely dispense this information to anyone who is willing to take the time to learn it. And it is because of what Allison is talking about, which brings us back to that. These groups know things that you probably don't. I have a good idea about most of these things, but you probably don't. You are consumed with your day-to-day life, and so me talking about these chakras is completely off-putting to you. You do not understand what I am talking about. But the universe is a harmonic. It is one of those 8 laws of creation. Everything is a waveform, including the way that you think and the way that you act and the way the creation itself works. You do not ever actually see anything. All you can see is the reflection of something, and the thing that you see is not even what you think you see. I use my phone case all of the time because it is a nice pretty blue, right? Well, there's no blue in here. That's why you can see blue. The thing that is reflected from this and from my shirt is the lack of blue. Every other color is being absorbed. The blue is being reflected back because there is no blue in it in order to take that in. Everything is a waveform. There are people who are trying to use your waveforms. They are, whether you intend to or not, you align yourselves with like. It is again one of those laws of creation. You will align yourself with whatever is most convenient for your purposes. So, most people out here in the wild are uninformed. I don't like to use unintelligent. I don't like to use any of those derogatory terms for it. It is that they are uninformed. If they knew the information, they could use the information. And so that is why I'm here. It is part of why I was inducted into the Order of Melchizedek, to dispense God's information to you freely. Do I get paid? Yeah, I get pennies per view. That is a real thing. If you watch one of these hour-long videos, I might get a penny out of it, maybe even 2. It's not about monetary gain. It is about the free dispersal of information, and the gain will come eventually. It is not the focus. Allison is out here trying to raise awareness to these things. She is trying to show, she started off in education and trying to redo the education system, which automatically aligns us, even though she won't know that. I want to build a school. I want to do it for grown folks because I don't want to deal with other people's children. There's a reason for that. It is because parents are a pain in the ass. Grown folks who wish to know things learn better. It is easier to get a grown person who wants to change their life to onboard the things that I am talking about. But I am not opposed to doing it in primary education either. I just don't necessarily want to be the one to do it. I am aligned towards a school because I believe that our education has failed, and this whole system is going to be part of what I am going for. These people who are aligned for nefarious means wish to take your information. They wish to take the things that you can do and to use them in currencies, and they wish to use them for control of you. There's an easy way to beat that, and the easy way to beat that is what I talk about here. Allison seems to be a little bit more aligned with the let's resist these outside forces, and I am more aligned with let us build up these interior forces so that the outside forces have less influence. With all of that being said, while we align, even if she doesn't understand that, I do, right? We are all operating from different levels of understanding, and Her level of understanding and my level of understanding don't necessarily mesh fully, but we are aligned. She had one of her videos as she started off. Now, I've watched several of her videos because that's what I do. My crew recommends things and I go back. And I don't always react, right? We don't always go into, let us react to this person's video, or let us do an MBTI type even, right? I'm trying to stay away from that because it appears to scare people off when I can see inside their mind a little bit. We are aligned with wanting to stop the harvesting of these bioelectric things in part. I'm of the opinion, like I just said, that there's no amount of fluoride that can affect your third eye, right? That is all an internal thing that they are building into you, that was put out there so that you would not even attempt the things that we talk about in this video or in this series of videos. You are being held back by the control systems. And yes, government is one of the control systems. But here's the thing. There are 8 laws of creation, and you have to play by them. In this incorporation, we are here voluntarily. We are here to learn lessons and to overcome. That is the entire point of existence. And in the process of learning lessons, there will be opposition. But there is nothing that can be enacted upon you which you do not consent to. That does mean that you may possibly lose this existence, but this is not the end all be all. You were somewhere prior to being here. You will be somewhere after here. I believe that the after here is the return to source. You go back to God 100% regardless of where you are in your walk. And you learn things when you get there. Part of that process is overcoming the fear that is built into this system. Now, I am of the firm opinion that the more information that we have, the more people that we have empowered to do the things that I talk about here in this narrow path videos, right? This is a very hard walk. Don't get it twisted. There is prayer, fasting, and meditation intrinsic to this. If you are not doing them, you will not accomplish anything. And that is not me, that is you. All of these things are available to you. I am endeavoring as much as I can to dispense these things to you freely and clearly, as easily explained as I possibly can. I have effected change in my own life. I have removed a cyst from my throat, and that is through the power of the Trinity. Now, this is not the Trinity like you may be familiar with, right? There is no Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. What there is body, soul, and spirit. The body is the temple. It is the thing of God that is given to you to navigate through this 5D space, which is our existence. The soul is the individualized piece of God that is given to you to navigate the temple, right? You are to use this body in order to do things. You are meant to learn lessons. That is part of incorporation. We are here to voluntarily incorporate. We are not on a prison planet. There is no oppressive force holding you back other than your conceptualization of the reality in which you are existing. And then the final step is the Spirit, right? You can call it the Holy Spirit. I do. It is the electromagnetic foundation upon which all of existence is built. Light is a waveform. Energy is a waveform. Matter is a waveform. Everything, everywhere is a waveform. And that waveform, in my estimation, is the Holy Spirit. It is the part that takes right now and turns it into the next second. It is the part that takes your oxygen and disperses it to your body. You don't have control of that. It is the part that takes your food and turns it into fuel so that you can move the meat suit around. And it is the part that when you make the decision, I want to wiggle my fingers, it's the part that makes your fingers wiggle. You don't do that. You make the decision to do that. The temple allows that to happen, right? This is the part that you are manipulating through your decision. But the part that turns the energy from potential into use is the Holy Spirit. It is the enveloping, surrounding, all-encompassing, all that is God. And it is only through the use of the Spirit that you can do any of the things that will be contained in these particular sets of videos or in the Infinite Integrations playlist. You have access to this, but it takes 3 steps: prayer, fasting, and meditation. Prayer is expressing your will to God. Fasting is preparing to hear the response to those pleas. And then meditation is where you allow that to come back. If you are actively engaged, it is prayer. If you are disengaged, it is meditation. That's a hard distinction for some people to grasp their minds around, but it is a very real thing. You can, through prayer, fasting, and meditation, take a small portion of control of the Holy Spirit. You can manipulate energies within yourself up and down your spinal column. And if you are correctly aligned and you have gone through the Infinite Integrations process and you are in accordance with the 8 laws of creation, you can use that. You can focus it. You can take and use the left-hand path, which we talk about in the Infinite Integrations playlist, and you can use that to affect change in your life. I have done that internally with proof. If you go back through my videos, when I first started this, I could not talk in this tone of voice. I talked in one that was way up here, and I know with the filters on the microphone, it's a little bit harder to make that out, but you can hear my voice crack a lot more than it does these days. You will hear no intonation changes because I had to hold way up high in order to speak. I could only talk for 15 minutes. It's because I had a lump in my throat, literally pushing on my vocal cords. It stopped me from speaking. I could not yell. Like, to be able to speak at an amplified tone of voice was impossible for me. If you were 15 feet away from me, you could not hear me 3 years ago. It is only through the acceptance of and the use of these things that I have been able to affect this change. But I have a small measure of control of my internal electromechanics, or electromagnetic biomechanics is the best way to put it. You emanate energy from these various points. They all interact with each other in great and mysterious ways, right? Your gut intuition, that comes from this. You can take control of it internally. I have shown that to you. You may not believe that, and I'm fine with that. I am not here to convince you. I am here to tell you. I have used those powers externally. It rebounded on me in a very real way. Now, I don't know how many times I've told this story, but it's only been once or twice. Back in 2011, there was a storm in the Gulf, right? I live in South Louisiana, and I got the wise idea that I was going to change that storm. I was going to make it dissipate, and so I did. I concentrated my energies and I focused them and I asked for it, and they started breaking apart. It went from a category 1 down to a tropical depression. And I was like, okay, well, that can just happen. Let's see if we can change that. So I said, let's intensify it. And so I did. And it became a tropical storm, but not quite a hurricane. And then I got injured in that storm. That was the storm that I got rear-ended in and wound up with all the broken things that I have. I have six herniations, 7 bulges, stenosis, scoliosis, and degenerative disc disorder. I'm changing those too, but that's one of those things that I can't even get into detail yet because it will have other repercussions elsewhere, but those things are changing for me too. This is an extended way of saying you do have access to the things that we are going to talk about. You are able to affect change in your life through the intentional use of your biomechanics. I do not recommend the external use because of what happened to me. But that doesn't mean that it's not a possibility. I am now beginning to be at a point of alignment with the Creator so that I can affect those changes outside of myself without all of the negative repercussions. The 8 laws of creation is how that happens. Allison is trying to do the same thing in a different way, right? She is trying to bring awareness to the situation that there are nefarious players who are attempting to collect your biodata. They are even attempting to learn how to affect you through the use of your biomechanics. That is, through the manipulation of sound waves, of light waves, of the things that you hear, to steer you into negative feedback loop cycles. Part of why I am even bringing Allison into this, number one, the crew asked. And so when the crew asked, this is what I think. But number two, while I don't believe that she is doing it nefariously, her delivery of this information is in a awareness situation, and that is absolutely reasonable. But without the how do I stop this, right? Bringing awareness is great. I spend a lot of my time bringing awareness to situations, but what I try to do is to have the answer, right? If I'm going to bring awareness, I'm going to bring at least one solution. This video will be the beginning of the explanation of the solution. I have struggled with how to relay the personal things that I have learned in a way that is understandable to you. That's why we do these ancient lore videos. That's why we do the Esoterica videos, so that we can discuss how other people have described this process in a way that I have had experience with to help you to understand these things. This is another attempt to do that, and I feel like this is going to be a more effective one. It's why we're taking this long to do the introduction. This is not in any way, shape, or form an attack on Allison, but it is only because of her video that I even found this book, right? It's been there since the 1600s, right? But it is something that I have heard about, right? The processes, not necessarily the book itself, but I don't have an Eastern view of these things. I don't have a Western view of these things. I have a directly revealed to me view of these things. It is part of the indoctrination, right? I have been inducted into the Order of Melchizedek. It is not something that I can convey. I am not a leader, right? As far as I know, I'm the only one in it, but I doubt that I'm the only one in it. It appears that my responsibility is to dispense these things. And so that is what I am doing. And it is through her video that I found these things. Now, I am recommending that my crew goes back to Allison's page to get a better understanding of her side of this, because I don't want to misrepresent her, right? She appears to be aligned correctly. She appears to be striving for the delivery of accurate information and to use that information for the betterment of humanity, that we are again aligned on things. Even though our terminology is a lot different, our ideologies are not necessarily the same. I stand where I stand for reasons. We play by rules. This incorporation has rules. We are here voluntarily, and it is not necessarily to change any of the rules. We can't change any of the laws, right? The 8 laws of creation are. But the rules by which we exist here, they're pretty firmly settled. There will be a government. There will be the necessity for work and toil. There will be loss. There will be happiness and ecstatic times, right? There are laws by which we exist. The main one that I want to bring focus to is the fact that there will be a government. Now, this is tying back to the Jones Plantation, which I know at least one other person has been upset with. Like, Dee was not happy with me with that video, but it is what it is. There was at least one other person who deleted a comment. We ain't going to call you out, but I know about it. I understand how that can be off-putting, right? I understand. But it is because we live by these rules. There are rules to this incorporation. You have to play by them. There will be a government. Voluntarism is not ever going to be part of it. Now, what form that government is, you do get a piece of. You get to choose. You get to help keep things where it needs to be, but it is a level of responsibility. This, what we talk about, the magic, that is responsibility. If you are learning these things, you are responsible for them, and if you use them willy-nilly, it will repercuss on you. You will feel the effects negatively of these things. It will happen. I am not threatening you. I am warning you. Here's the kicker. You're going to do it anyway. You are. You're going to take the things that I relay and you're going to use them in the wrong manner. But I am exempted from your repercussions because of these videos. Because I have taken the time to warn you. Before you try any of the things that we are about to discuss, make sure that you understand the laws. Make sure that you have looked through the power of perspective and intention. Make sure that you understand the harmonics of life. Make sure that you understand the NPC and the multiverse. All of these things are key to directing your path in the path that you want. Here's the thing that we don't talk about often enough, and this is a good place to begin talking about it more. We are on separate timelines. That is part of the NPC video. My timeline and your timeline are not necessarily the same. We play by the same rules. We are in the same corporeal existence. We are governed by the same 8 laws of creation. But the things that I can do and the things that you can do are 2 different things. I am forming my reality. This is my timeline, and unless you are in control of your timeline, I am taking you with me. I have claimed responsibility for every single person who is not intentionally creating their own timeline to ensure that our timeline is going in the correct direction. I am taking the responsibility for that. Part of that is my prayer walk that I do every single morning. Every single day that it is not flat out pissing rain, I'm out there walking. Hot or cold, I'm out there walking. I am praying for you. Every single day I am out there out loud asking for our direction to go in the right way. I pray for people I don't even like, so don't get it like you're some special person, right? I pray for Joe Biden every single day by name. I pray that his direction is corrected to the way that is the way that God can use it in the best manner. I don't agree with his decisions, but through his decisions, I can see awakenings happening all across our country. I was not happy with the election in 2020. That is no secret, right? But I am aligning us in ways that I see the results happening. The day I started praying that we would get some accountability in social media is the day that Elon Musk decided he was going to buy Twitter. That is a real thing. You don't have to believe it. There have been a multitude of things. All of these things that you see out there happening that are aligning us towards the positive, that is me. That is through God. Never get it twisted. It is through the intentional use of my stack into the divine that I am calling into existence the way. You can choose not to come with me. You can choose to grab your own timeline and go. But I am taking control of everybody's timeline who is not intentionally catching their own. Because ignorance is a thing. It is a problem. I can help fix that. I am trying here to help you grab your own timeline. It is preferable that you grab your own timeline. It is preferable that you understand that it is possible for you to grab your own timeline, for you to determine the direction in which your life will go. That is not only just a possibility, it is a reality. I am changing so much about my life, both personally and in the greater picture. I believe we're about to have the best 12 years of this country's existence. We're about to have the best 12 years. We're going to get 4 from the current guy running. We're going to get 8 on the backside of that. And then we're going to be coming up into the bottleneck. The bottleneck is a real thing, and it is the main reason I am not as concerned about what Allison is as she is. Most people do not understand the bottleneck. We'll get back to that in a second. Let's go back to timelines. If you take control of your timeline and you align yourself with me, then we have two, right? And if we have two or more in agreement, we can shape the direction of things. You're told that in those books that you believe in more than I do. See the Unconventional Bible Study. You can grab hold of your timeline and decide that you want to align with me or you don't. Everyone who is aligned with me, we're going to see some results. We're going to see this 12 years. But if you were aligned on the other side, you might not. Our realities can diverge. Again, this goes back to the NPC video, so you should definitely check that one out. But we don't necessarily share the exact same reality. We can come into alignment, and for the most part, if you are not intentional, you are automatically in alignment with something, and you don't even understand it. It is the law, right, that like will attract like. If you are out there talking every day about the negativity, you will be pulling the negativity in. And if you are out there talking about the positive, every day you will be pulling the positive in, and you will see the positive results. Because my timeline and yours are not necessarily aligned, our futures are not necessarily going to be the same. There will be a divergence. Something is coming to cause that divergence, and I call it the bottleneck. Now, the bottleneck, as I understand it this time, is going to be the 12,000-year disaster cycle. There is a predictable, trackable disaster cycle that happens. It is a 12,000-year cycle repeating, but with a 6,000-year cycle opposite. What that means is, 12,000 years ago, there was a fire event. It is recorded in the Bible as the expulsion from Eden. Something appearing to look like a giant flaming sword changed the shape of the earth. It raised mountains where they did not stand before. It affected great change. And it was a fire event. It was hot, right? The waters receded. There was a lot of heat, a lot of plasmic discharge. And when I say that, it is not just a lightning bolt, but imagine a lightning bolt that is 30 or 40 miles wide, right? Massive electrical discharge. And so it changed the scope of the earth, and it was recorded in the Bible as the expulsion from Eden. That was 12,000 years ago. 6,000 years ago, there was the next step in the cycle, which is a wet event. Right? You had a hot one, then you get a wet one. The wet event seems to be the grounding of those forces. The waters rise from the earth. They come down from the heavens above, but they spring up from the earth. They are raised. Guys over at the Thunderbolt Project can give you the science on this. They can have reproduced in the lab how this can work. And not necessarily that it happened exactly that way, but this is the way that it could have happened. We are at the very edge of that 12,000 year recycled hot one, right? There is a hot one, a wet one, a hot one, a wet one. Going back through history, you can go through, we did Plato and Critias here on the Ancient Lore playlist. You will find them where there is an account of Atlantis. And in that, Solon says that his grandfather relayed to him that there was a repeating pattern of disasters and that this latest one was just one in many. I believe that that happens in a trackable, predictable manner due to the things that we see over at Thunderbolts Project and over at Suspicious Observers. I will try to remember to link them along with Allison in the video down below. This bottleneck, as I call it, is going to reshape the earth. Most people are not going to make it on the other side. What I am trying to do here, we can't change the bottleneck, but we can change the effects coming out of the bottleneck. If we go in today, there's not a whole lot of hope on the other side. What I am hoping to do is to diversify this to so many people that no matter who goes, somebody will have the knowledge. And that knowledge is, first, that this cycle is a thing and we need to make a record of it so that on the other side, when the 6,000 year one hits, the wet one, We won't be surprised by it, but maybe we'll have some preparations. And also, to prepare for this one, I would like to see a plethora of Edens. By that I mean permaculture agriculture, right? I want to see fruit trees and nut trees planted in as many places as we can possibly get it. I want to teach as many people as possible about soil mechanics and fungi networks so that you understand that the no-till process, the recomposting process, is the best process for growing crops. And yes, it will mean less yields in the large scope of the monoculture that we have now, but it will be healthier yields. The food that we have is hurting us. That is a whole different video, so I'm not going to jump into that, but that is a truth. These genetically modified things that we incorporate into our being is changing us. It is causing all kinds of problems. And if you are kind of fluffy and you don't understand why, it is probably the things that you are consuming. It has a lot to do with exercise too, don't get that twisted, but it has to do with what you are consuming. I am wanting to raise awareness to get more healthy out there. What I do here is multifaceted, right? We talk about depression and anxiety in very real ways because I have been through them. And I have some help to give to people. And I've shown that in my reaction videos, right? I have people that are still walking this planet today because of something I said. And that is a blessing from God himself. The fact that people can take the things that I relay and incorporate them into their life and to help change in a positive manner is the entire reason I do this. It is the same with this. I am trying to give you something through my personal experience that you can use to change your life. I can't change your life. I have no right to even try. I'm not here to try to change your beliefs. I try to run off as many people as I can. I tell you repeatedly, this is open to everyone, but it is not for everyone. This path is narrow. It is rocky. It is hard. It is hard to walk opposite of everybody, right? You know how much easier my life would be if I could take what I do, right? I have affected healing in myself that other people can witness. I could run out there and I could be, Jesus saves and Jesus will heal you. But that is not what I am here for. I am here to let you know that God will heal you if you allow it to happen. If you follow the things that I do, you can change your own life. That is why I am here, right? Everything on this channel is devoted to God. And there are many facets to that. I want to build a school so that we can build the awareness that I am talking about so that people can go out and succeed in life. I think we have like 20 years until this event. It could be 200, right? I am not here to build fear, but this event is coming. There's way too many reasons to believe it to believe that it won't. I believe that when this event comes, it's going to negate what Allison is concerned about. We're going to lose power. That is an almost certainty. And I don't say certain for many things, right? There's very few things that I will tell you I am 100% certain on. I am 99% certain that this event will happen. I probably will not make it. I might be one of the ones that get to help to restart the other side. But if not, if even just one person watches these videos, incorporates what I am talking about, and makes it through, then at least humanity's got a shot. That is what we are doing, right? The school is guided towards that. All of my various ventures that I am on, like the game I am building, the music that I write, the poems that I write, all of my original products are aimed towards giving things away. It is aimed towards helping people to learn all of the things that we're talking about here, plus more, right? I want to build a school. I want to fund it myself because I don't want to have to go to the government and say, can you please give me some money so that I can do this? And they'd be like, yeah, sure, but you have to teach this thing. I want to be able to teach my own things. I want to show people this system. I want to help them to incorporate this into their life so that we are all people aligned with changing for the better. I want everybody to grab hold to their timeline and align themselves with me, but you don't have to. If you are aligning towards a positive result, you're close enough for me. I give this information away freely. We talk about this almost daily, right? I'm giving away keys to knowledge. That is what I'm doing. And that is the whole reason why we're going to be doing this particular study. I brought up Allison because she is part of how I found this. If it was not for Dee telling me to check her out and her talking about Jung as an integral part of this book, right? Not this particular version of it, but he wrote the foreword to one of the translations to this book. I follow Jung. Not to the extent that I probably should. I haven't read all of his works. I haven't watched all of the interviews. I've picked and chosen the things that I wanted. But his archetypes is what the MBTI system is built on. If it was not for Jung, we wouldn't have this tool. Now, I believe that my retooling of the tool has made it into something a lot more useful. The Myers-Briggs system, as it was kind of useless, right? It really was. You could get a generalization of people, but it was not logically consistent in a way that was repeatable by multiple persons. I've tried to take that part and make it more repeatable. I have aligned it with the scientific process in a way that I believe shows the biological imperative for natural selection in these particular traits, in a way that shows that it is not something that you are confined to, but it is rather a way to understand yourself and therefore overcome the trials that are assigned to you. The understanding of your particular trials can greatly help you, right? Understanding I do this and get stuck here because of this particular thing gives you the tools to overcome the particular thing, right? My addiction being tied into my SI demon allows me to understand that that is a demon talking to me. Not necessarily in a real way, but it could very well be in a real way. We are about to begin another explanation, another casting of the pearls. And if you did not have the patience to walk through this introduction and understand those things, then the next part is going to be of no use to you. You will attempt these things and you will receive negative results and you will call me a liar. Take the time to understand. And now we're going to read the introduction, and then the next videos we will be talking about the things that are contained within the book. But let's go ahead and do the introduction. The Secret of the Golden Flower. Introduction. Naturalness is called the way. The way has no name or form. It is just the essence, just the primal spirit. The Secret of the Golden Flower is a lay manual of Buddhist and Taoist methods for clarifying the mind. A distillation of the inner psychoactive elements in ancient spiritual classics, it describes a natural way to mental freedom practiced in China for many centuries. The golden flower symbolizes the quintessence of the paths of Buddhism and Taoism. Gold stands for light, the light of the mind itself. The flower represents the blossoming or opening up of the light of the mind. Thus, the expression is emblematic of the primal awakening of the real self and its hidden potential. In Taoist terms, the first goal of the way is to restore the original God-given spirit and become a self-realized human being. In Buddhist terms, a realized human being is someone conscious of the original mind or of the real self, as in its spontaneous natural state, independent of environmental conditioning. The original spirit is also called the celestial mind or the natural mind, a mode of awareness subtler and more direct than thought or imagination. It is central to the blossoming of the mind. The Secret of the Golden Flower is devoted to the recovery and refinement of the original spirit. This manual contains a number of helpful meditation techniques, but its central method is deeper than a form of meditation. Using neither idea nor image, it is a process of getting right to the root source of awareness itself. The aim of this exercise is to free the mind from arbitrary and unnecessary limitations imposed upon it by habitual fixation on its own contents. With this liberation, Taoists say, the conscious individual becomes a partner of creation rather than a prisoner of creation. You are not on a prison planet, and that is one of the control systems attempting to hold you back. Anybody that tells you that you are a prisoner here is trying to hold you back. The experience of the blossoming of the golden flower is likened to light in the sky, a sky of awareness vaster than images, thoughts, and feelings, an unimpeded space containing everything without being filled. Thus, it opens up an avenue to an endless source of intuition, creativity, and inspiration. Once this power of mental awakening has been developed, it can be renewed and deepened without limit. The essential practice of the golden flower requires no apparatus, no philosophical or religious dogma, no special paraphernalia or ritual. It is practiced in the course of daily life. It is near at hand, beginning in the mind itself, yet it involves no imagery or thought. That is important because if you do not know, I have aphantasia. I'm going to hit that really quickly, right? I forgot that in the other part, but I do not have the ability. Correction. I have not had the ability for the entirety of my life up until the current time, which we will get to visualize anything. For all of my life, if I close my eyes and I attempt to see anything, I do not. I see a gray field. It is like static on a TV. I can't form a blade of grass, a box, or a color. Up until recently, part of what I am doing here that I cannot show you, right? I can show you the physical effects of what happened in my throat. I cannot relay to you how amazing it is. I have been healed in at least a small part through the practice that I am going through, right? Through these things. I am able to visualize colors. For the first time ever in my life, I can change intentionally something that I see. That is something that has never happened to me before. I got in trouble in third grade, like literally got in trouble for telling the teacher I cannot visualize. We were doing visualization exercises, and I told her I don't see anything, and I got in trouble. Like I literally got in trouble for saying that. It is something that has been true. I thought that everybody was lying, right? That it was part of, go back and watch my origin stories, but I don't have a whole lot of trust for people. And so I thought that everybody was lying about being able to visualize because I had no way of doing it. But I do now. It has happened to me for the very first time. As part of my meditative practices, I have asked for that to be healed. That is a whole different, like asking for healing is a whole different thing. But it has been affected in me. Not to the grand degree that you might expect, right? Manifestation is supposed to be immediate. No, not even. It has taken me a long time to clear up this thing in my throat. It has taken me a long time to do other things in my body that I can't tell you about, but it has taken a long time to get this part right either. But for the first time in my life, this past week, I was able to change the color of my sight with my eyes closed. After the golden flower, I'm assuming, appeared, I was able to conceptualize red and to clear my base in the way that other people do. I was able to change that red into orange and clear my sacral in the way that other people do. Right? For me, it has always been the hold the thought of and not the image of. Now, for the first time in my life, I can do imagery. I believe that I was held back from that so that I could tell you with no uncertainty that it is possible to do all of these things and not have imagery. Right? I believe that is the reason why I was held back from being able to visualize anything. Like even the simplest thing. I still can't do a box, but I haven't really tried. I have been able to affect the color, and that is an amazing thing to me. That if you can close your eyes and remember, like close your eyes and remember, that is a superpower. If I could do that, we'd already be on a different timeline. But there is no specific imagery or thought that has to be into this, right? You have to keep in mind the 8 laws of creation because they are fundamental. You have to align yourself correctly, but I don't tell you I don't tell you a name to call upon. That is an intentional choice for a reason. All right, back to the text. It is remote only in the sense that it is a use of attention generally unfamiliar to the mind, habituated to imagination and thinking. The secret of the golden flower is remarkable for the sharpness of its focus on a very direct method for self-realization, accessible to ordinary lay people. When it was written down in a crisis more than 200 years ago, it was a concentrated revival of an ancient teaching, and it has been periodically reviewed in crises since, due to the rapidity with which the method can awaken awareness of hidden resources in the mind. The Secret of the Golden Flower is the first book of its kind to have been translated into a Western language. A German version by Richard Wilhelm was first published in 1929, and an English translation of this German rendition was published shortly thereafter. Both German and English editions included an extensive commentary by the distinguished psychologist Carl Gustav Jung, whose work became a major influence in Western psychology, studies of mythology and religion, and New Age culture in general. Although Jung credited The Secret of the Golden Flower with having clarified his own work on the unconscious, he maintained serious reservations about the practice taught in the book. What Jung did not know, though, was that the text he was reading was in fact a garbled translation of a truncated version of a corrupted recension of the original work. Unawares, a critical communication gap occurred in the process of transmission, and yet the book made a powerful impression. It became one of the main sources of Western knowledge of Eastern spirituality, and also one of the seminal influences in Jungian thought on the psychology of religion. Carrie F. Baines, who rendered Wilhelm's German into the English, even went so far as to hail it as the secret of the power of growth latent in the psyche. Psychological and experiential approaches to religion have enriched modern psychological thought and research, which have in turn enriched the understanding and experience of religion. In terms of religion as culture, one of the advantages of a psychological approach is the facility with which emotional boundaries of church and sect can thereby be transcended. In Wilhelm's own introduction to his translation of The Secret of the Golden Flower, he notes that Taoist organizations following the teaching in his time included not only Confucians and Buddhists, but also Jews, Christians, and Muslims, all without requiring them to break away from their own religious congregations. So fundamental is the Golden Flower awakening that it brings out inner dimensions in all religions. From the point of view of that central experience, it makes no difference whether one calls the Golden Flower awakening a relationship to God or to the way. I am the way, right? Or whether one calls it the Holy Spirit or the Buddha nature or the real self. The Tao Te Ching says names can be designated, but they are not fixed terms. I love that. The image of the opening up of the golden flower of the light in the mind is used, but one of many ways to alluding to an effect that really is ineffable. The pragmatic purpose of Taoist and Buddhist teachings is to elicit experience, not to inculcate doctrines. That is why people of other religions, with or with no religion at all, have been able to avail themselves of the psychoactive technologies of Taoism and Buddhism without destroying their own cultural identities. Considered in terms of its essential aim, rather than the forms it can take, the Golden Flower method can be used to transcend the barriers of personal and cultural differences without losing the richness of diversity and distinction. The Secret of the Golden Flower is indeed a powerful treatise on awakening the hidden potential of a universal human being. I hope so. Right? That is what I am hoping. I am hoping to expound upon this in ways that are relatable. And it is, in reality, an even better and more useful book than Wilhelm, Jung, or Baines thought it to be. However immature his rendition may have been, I am deeply indebted to Richard Wilhelm for introducing this extraordinary text to the West, for it could otherwise have gone unnoticed for decades, even centuries, amidst the hundreds upon hundreds of Taoist and Buddhist treatises awaiting translation. It can therefore be said that it is because of Wilhelm's efforts that this new English version of The Secret of the Golden Flower has come into being. It is to further inquiries into ways of approaching universal psychology and mental wholeness in general, and to further inquiries into development of the researches initiated by Wilhelm and Jung in their presentation of this book in particular, that I have undertaken to follow up on their work with a new and complete rendition of The Secret of the Golden Flower. Because the still current Wilhelm Young Baines edition of this manual contains dangerous and misleading contaminations, a primary consideration of the new translation was to make the contents of The Secret of the Golden Flower explicitly accessible to both lay and specialist audiences. This is partly a matter of translation and partly a matter of presentation. The text itself is somewhat like a series of explanations of practical meanings and esoteric terminology for the use of lay people. To this have been added selections translated from a canonical Chinese Taoist commentary that further refines the principles into pragmatic observations, divested of the outward forms of religious and alchemical symbolism. The translation notes explain the expressions, ideas, and practices to which the text refers. The afterword joins the beginning and the end, from the background of the translations to the psychological implications of the praxis. And that is where we are going to wrap this one up. I know that I hold some unconventional beliefs and that I have a tendency to step on toes when I relay those beliefs. It is not intentional, but it is not something that I apologize for. I am here on a mission. My mission is to empower as many people as I possibly can with the ability to resist the technological takeover that is coming. I believe that it will be able to fulfill what it wants, but that shortly thereafter, we are going to lose power and they will no longer be able to do the things. If I am correct and the 12,000 year disaster cycle is a real thing, then there will be great loss across the entirety of the globe. Most people will not make it. I more than likely will not make it. I am already pushing 50 years old, and while I am getting in better shape than I have ever been in my entire life, I am on the backside. By the time that I believe that these things will happen, I will be pushing 70, maybe even 80. It is extremely unlikely that I will make it. These things that I am looking for may not happen in my lifetime. It may happen after I die. I could die today. I could die tomorrow. That is not part of the journey. I could get cancer tomorrow. That is a real thing. I don't believe it's going to happen, but it is a possibility. That doesn't negate anything that I am saying. I have affected change within myself through the manipulation of electromagnetic forces that are the fundamental harmonics of this existence. Everything is a waveform, everything is a toroid, and everything must return at some point or another by some means or another. You are not meant to be immortal, nor even to strive for immortality. You are meant to take control here and now of your own timeline. You are meant to guide through direct decision making how your life will go. You have both the power and the ability innate within you, but it does take prayer, fasting, and meditation. It takes dedication. You have to apply yourself honestly and earnestly to the achievement of the correct things. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a series of somewhat complicated topics. Once again, I know I hold some unconventional beliefs. I am not trying to call into account anyone, right? I am trying to raise awareness. When I reference Allison, it is so that you can go back and learn some from her. I have already. There is more to learn from her. We don't ever have to talk face to face in order for me to learn from her. I will learn the things that she is providing. There are other people out there doing the same things, right? The Thunderbolts Project are dispensing information. I tell you about them so that you can go back and learn. Suspicious Observers is dispensing information. I tell you so that you can go back and learn. Jason Brashears over at Archaics is dispensing information. I tell you about it so you can go back and learn. Go back. Click on them links. Go to those people's pages. Find the things that are relevant to the things we are discussing. Not everything will be. Most of these people have a lot of information to slog through, and they're not necessarily making it easy to find the information that you need. That's why I do these groundwork videos at the beginning of each series. You can go back to the beginning of each one of my playlists, and I'm going to try to lay out what we're doing. Right? I'm going to try to tell you, this is what I am trying to do, this is why I am trying to do it, and here is how we are going to do it. I am trying to dispense the information. It is going to be by relaying direct things that have been revealed to me as we go through the text and clarify or change whatever needs to be done. We did that with the Bible study. We did that with several of the other studies. When we went through Manly Hall, we talked about what was correct and incorrect. When we went through the various other people, we do the same thing. The goal here is to get to the nugget of truth that is contained in all of these books. The Secret of the Golden Flower could be perfectly correct. I do not know. I have not read it yet. It could be completely off base. I do not know. I have not read it yet. We are going to learn together. But I do have a little bit more knowledge than other people. I have walked things that people talk about. I could be on a path of material gain with the things that I have. I choose to walk in humility and accept whatever God throws at me, right? I formed a new covenant. We talked about that. My covenant is that I will do what God tells me to do to the best of my ability with the fullness of my vigor, and he will give me what he finds to be appropriate. It may be wealth, it may be poverty. Either one I accept. If you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment. Let me know whether you agree or disagree. If it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. And if you really like what I'm doing over here, hit me with that super thanks, because I do not manifest money. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt's Take. Peace.